Hey, welcome to day 4, Extreme Makeover. What we're going to do with this particular prompt is look at a way to paint faces even if you can't draw faces. And this is something that I always really struggled with before I took the intentional creativity training, which just happens to include a really great technique for being able to draw faces. I could not draw a face to save my soul. I mean, it just was not in the cards for me to do it. And so I just didn't. That was a big part of why I did mostly abstract paintings, because I could not do the human form at all. I just couldn't do it. I even really got myself into trouble one time when I had first gotten back into doing art. I was involved with the artist trading card group, ATCs for All, online, where I met a number of you people, and I got myself into a swap, one of the pick-a-theme swaps, without realizing what exactly I had done. And so I found myself in the position of having to do a hand-drawn mermaid card for somebody. And the hand-drawn part wasn't a problem, because at that time I was only doing watercolors and I had taken some charcoal drawing classes, and so that part was fine, but it was the mermaid part. I worked so hard trying to draw the face. I don't know how many cards I wasted trying to get that thing to work. And it finally dawned on me that I was going to have to draw her from behind. So I did a card with, wavy hair, and, her scales were lovely in the tail, and I used a lot of metallic pencil and all that. And I hope that the person liked it okay. I wish I could remember now, go back in and dig around and figure out who got that card, because now that I can actually draw faces, I could do the card a lot better now, 6 years later or whatever. But at any rate, we're going to do a technique today that will allow you to customize faces and not actually have to draw them first. And that's what the magazine pages are going to come into play with. I had heard about this technique a couple of times, but I actually got to do it live this past spring when I visited my friend Linda Giese, who's also watching. Hi, Linda. And some of the other Southern California people are also on here. I got to go down there for a work-related conference and had some free time, so I got to have a play date with Linda, and this was one of the things that she and I did that day. So here is the one that I did that day. So underneath all of this is like an Oil of Olay ad or something or other, some sort of makeup ad, and just putting paint layers over the magazine ad, using it as a template to create your own lady. And that's what we're going to do in this one. Maybe it'll be a realistic portrait of someone. Maybe it'll be a more imaginative science fiction kind of portrait. Maybe it will be your muse emerging. Who knows? But we will find out in just a minute. Okay, this is the one that I have chosen to work with for this time. I don't know if I'll keep her rings or not, but that will be an interesting thing to have there in case I do. And I'll be able to add her eye here if I want to, or I can do something with hair, maybe an interesting color of hair. But this is about what you want to find is a good full face shot. You could also find something where the face takes up the whole page, but definitely something where the face is taking up at least half of the page, so you have a lot of face to work with. So the first thing you're going to want to do is cut out some of the background area so that you can paint onto your own page. So I'm going to cut out these dark areas around her hands, around her hair, where her hair fades into the background. Trim her off at her shoulder. This doesn't have to be exact. I kind of guesstimate is what we'll end up doing. We'll fit her onto the page, and then we will, when we paint over, we'll end up incorporating our color scheme into the background. You can do this on a 1-page or a 2-page spread depending, so you could get fancy if you wanted and go across the spread. That actually might be kind of fun on this one. I might do that actually. Yeah. Okay. So once you've decided where you're going to place your person, you just need to tape her down. Oh, there's another one on the back that's pretty good too. Okay, so I'm going to put her here. Let her fall over onto this other page. I'm going to go ahead and trim this while I'm thinking about it. All right. So one of the first steps is to start doing some background work. And this is where you can get a little bit creative and decide what kind of background colors you want to add on. I think I'm going to mix up some fuchsia and some light blue. And over here on the side where I've got quite a bit of space to work with, I'm just going to dip my card in and do some smears over here. Later on in the process, I will probably do something to elongate her body, or maybe put some clothes on her or something or other. So you just want to start getting some color on the page to integrate the design before we start working on her face. I'm being pretty messy. You don't have to be so messy, but I've gotten to the point where I'm a lot more comfortable with being messy. In the past, I would be very precise and I'd be scared to put the brush anywhere, or I wouldn't even want to use the card technique because I thought it was just too sloppy. But I am embracing the freedom of just putting color down. Oh my goodness, yes, okay. All right, so I'm gonna grab a brush here and clean up a little bit where I have smeared paint all over her. And this is just going to be a little bit of an underlayer. We will incorporate these into the design later. Acrylic paint also works as an adhesive, so you can use it in that way as well. to tuck down those little corners that may be peeking up. All right. So let's work on her face a little bit. I'm going to mix a little bit of the fuchsia with some kind of creamy yellowish color. Get kind of a base color going. This is just the first layer. This isn't going to be the final solution. This will just allow you to see where the contours of the face are, kind of get an idea of what you're working with and where you may want to add features, accentuate features. Some dark brown. Add in her eyebrows. And I think I'm gonna add in another eyebrow over here and actually go ahead and give this person two visible eyes. Just going to trace around the eyes. And then kind of create another eye over here. And then as you're going along, you can start to do things in different orders depending on what looks most natural or what looks not natural, but what looks reasonable for you as you're envisioning what your person is going to look like. Sometimes getting some hair into place will help you see what else is going to come out. And depending on how realistic you want it to be, you can work with paint colors that are more accurately flesh-toned or not, and start adding in areas of light and shadow. Brush is too small. Get this one in here. Line the nose a bit. And just play around with some of the different colors to add the highlights. And move back up and work on the eyes for a minute. I'm also going to introduce the other eye. Add the pupil here. We'll add the details back in to make them more lifelike if we want to. Mix the fuchsia and brown together to make kind of a lip color here. Outline her lips. Okay. One thing to remember about putting in the whites of the eyes to make them look a little bit more natural, if that's what you're going for, is that the whites of the eyes are really not stark white, and so when you're doing faces, portraits of any kind like this, mix the white with a little bit of light blue or a little bit of yellow or cream to tone the white down a little bit and make it look a little bit more natural. Let's see here. And when you put the light fleck in the eyes for the reflection, and just kind of drop it in and then make sure you do it on the same side on the other eye, kind of the same spot, not having them be at opposite corners. Okay. So I'm going to keep working on this. I'm going to keep painting on her face and on the extension over here. So what I'm going to do here is use a medium to large round brush, and I'm going to use some of the blue and add her in a shirt or a sweater or something. I like using round brushes. They provide kind of the most versatile approach. There are certainly lots of different kinds of brushes you can use to do different effects, but I find that I go back to my round brushes most of the time. There are certainly things that you can do with the flat brushes or the filbert brushes, which are the ones with the oval top. There's some really great things you can do with that, but I find, especially for art journaling, I just tend to go back to the round brushes most often. I'm going to add some pink in here. Now that I've used the blue for the sweater, I need to add some contrast. I'm going to add some more of the cream pink mixture to her hands here. I should say too, I'm using dry brushes here. I'm not using any water at all on the brushes. And part of that is because of the paper being so thin, the magazine sheet being so thin. If you add a lot of water at this point, you'll end up with buckled paper. Sometimes it can even tear through. So I definitely tend to use a dry brush when I do some of this technique. Lengthen her fingers a little bit. Add some layers to her face. This isn't an exact science by any means, but just going in and adding some lights, getting more of her hair in. At this point, it's just kind of having fun with adding in the lights and the darks and adding the shadows and just playing around to see how much depth you can add. Some nail polish here. Switched over to a smaller brush too. And, another thing you don't see me doing here is rinsing my brushes, and that's also because I am trying to keep them dry. I'm working pretty quickly, but I'm straddling that dangerous line between letting the brushes dry out and getting them too wet to work with. You don't want acrylic paint to dry on your brushes, because then
well, you'll basically ruin your brushes. There are certainly products you can buy. There are things that people will sell you that they claim will get the paint out of brushes, but acrylic paint really is permanent when it dries, and I have accidentally ruined brushes that way. I've also accidentally ruined brushes by leaving them in the water too long. So it's kind of a delicate balance of just getting used to how fast the paint dries and how wet you want your brushes to be and how much water you can get in and out of them to keep them at the level that you want for the project that you're working on. And certainly different if you're working with heavy body paint and canvas. I'm going to switch over to a very small brush at this point and use some black to add in some eyeliner for her to make her eyes pop a little bit. Get some more brown paint and go back up a size and fix her eyebrows, thicken up the eyebrows a little bit. For her lips, I'm going to go over them with a lighter shade, a paler shade of the pink. And I've just mixed in some of that pale cream color with the darker rose shade. And then I'm going to go back over it again with the darker color. And I'm just doing this to kind of add a layer to put in some lights and shadows to make the lips appear a bit fuller. I'm going to give her fingers on the other hand too. I'm still not sure what I'm going to do about those rings. They're kind of a little too gaudy now that I think of it. But for the time being, I'm just going to give her some pink nail polish on this side too. I'll have to go back later and do some outlining or something around that so it shows up a little bit better.
Okay, so let's work on our face. Give her Okay, so I have done some work on her face, given her some fingernails, put a blue shirt on her, different things. She doesn't look like she did. I'm going to mix a little bit more of this pink and brown together to kind of make a dusty color to add some more over here. Just to add some more textural marks. And once you get done with your new person, you can decide what she's going to be named, or he if you did a guy, that's fine too. Got some more pink streaks in her hair. She's looking a little too like Robert Smith to me, so I'm gonna give her a few more fuchsia highlights here. What I do sometimes when I finish one of these kinds of things, one of the intentional creativity paintings where I've painted one of the muse type paintings, or when I've done an art journaling page like this with a face, is you just kind of look at her for a while. You just kind of sit and look at her and kind of decide what she's got to say, what is she trying to tell you, what's her message, and what's her name going to be. A lot of the paintings we do, that I've done through the Intentional Creativity program, end up getting a name, Our Lady of such and such, she who will, blah, blah, blah. One of the first, well, the actual first painting I did in the Intentional Creativity program that I did, her name was Anna Luna, but her real name, so to speak, was She Who Will Waste No More Time. So sometimes they speak to you very strongly, and sometimes they're quieter. And this one, I think she wants me to listen, or she's not going to stop talking. Won't stop singing. That's what we'll do. You may choose not to put her name into the work, or you may want to put that on a different page. You may write about why you came up with her name or what you think about why you came up with her name. You can also do this with a marker. Writing in paint can be pretty hard. She Who Won't Stop the Music. There we go. See you next time.